Ironzaku Short Reviews, Sony's Venomverse edition. Let's do this. Even if it's not saying much, you could at least argue that this one is probably the most competent of the Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man, and it does have some good chemistry between Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and Venom, but the story is pretty weak and the villain is just forgettable. If you were going to do a Venom sequel with Carnage and Cletus Cassidy being played by Woody Harrelson of all people, you could have took the perfect opportunity to make it R-rated and bloody as hell. Guess which route Sony chose to do in the end. The fact that Sony got gaslighted by the memes that were spawned from this movie to re-release this in theaters, only for it to bomb harder, will never cease to be more entertaining than the actual film itself. I will give credit to Matt Smith for knowing what kind of film he was in and trying to be the best part. Feels like it's trying to be a throwback movie to the early 2000s era of comic book movies, however, it does so in the worst way possible, but you can't help but laugh at the final product. Seriously, casting Dakota Johnson from the 50 Shades of Grey movies to play Madam Web, who is canonically an old woman in the comics, to play her? Sony, what were you smoking to think that was a good idea? If you enjoyed the first two Venom movies enough, you probably will get exactly what you'd expect as a send-off for both Eddie Brock and Venom. There is some guilty pleasure entertainment to be found here. On one hand, it is kinda neat to finally see one of these movies be R-rated that probably should have gone to Venom Let There Be Carnage, but at the same time, it had to be for a Kraven the Hunter movie that ended off this universe in the most pathetic whimper I've ever seen. Come on, the DCEU lasted longer than this. Subscribe for more of these shorts, and I hope you have a great day.